Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are up next bringing what? Freedom to potential. Yes, thank you. We have our friend back here, our Marshall Goldsmith certified coach, Oscar Randy Swaim, who of course is also an author now, a true story of overcoming and soaring above the storms of a life. This is true. His autobiography is out right now. He's going to take us to a new altitude with all he does at coachingforrelevance.com. And I want to hear more about the book. I want to hear about the coaching. I want to hear about the potential movie deal in the works. All right,
Cool.
we have a lot to talk about today. So you start. Go for it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, I know you want to, I'll just mention one or two quick things about, like I say, the book and the movie. What I will say is about the book, I'm very humbled in some of the folks that are reading it and some of the comments they're making about it. And it's just kind of amazing on it. I had one lady that literally texted me about 2 minutes ago, and she said, "I'm reading it. I can't put it down," is what she said. And there's one lady on Sunday that is almost done reading it, and she said, "You know, Randy, I got to share something with you that I so appreciate." And I said, "What's that?" She said, "It's amazing to me that you bring such honesty into your story and all that kind of stuff." And, you know, as I mentioned to you, it's sharing a story of that overcoming and all of that kind of stuff. So it's been kind of amazing. And I actually just got, and one of the things we're actually doing too is, and this is just for anybody that's interested in knowing what one of the things we're doing is, and it looks like what we're going to do is we're going to schedule it for the second Wednesday in August. So August, I think it's 14th or 12th. I don't remember which one it is, kind of thing. I'd have to go look at it. But about noontime Central Time, what we're going to do is we're going to actually create a 30-minute book launch, and it's going to be on Zoom and at no cost. Anybody who wants to join it and just be a part of it, whether they've read it or not yet, kind of stuff, can join in, ask questions. I may ask a few questions of them, kind of thing, to get them thinking and stuff like that. So looks like that's going to be published probably in August, because it's about, like I say, about that second Wednesday in August, we're going to do that. And then I learned today that it looks like the movie documentary of my life and story in Hollywood is it looks like they're targeting, and they're going to make it complete and publishable and, you know, ready to be published by the end of June. So all of that looks like it's sort of happening. Who knows? It could be an interesting summer, that's for sure.
Oh my goodness. Wow, this is exciting. And not that your whole other life hasn't been exciting, but this is just more and more. My goodness. Congratulations. You deserve this.
You know, and it's interesting. I heard somebody, and I gotta say, I don't remember who it was, but it's a true point, and it's been a true point of my story, that it's an aspect of when you go through struggles, when you go through challenging times, are you defeated by them? Do you get kind of thing, or is it something around which an incredible story is created? And I got it when I saw that. And this person actually said it in a faith-based concept. They said, you know, when you look at your struggles and all that, stay with me, because I'll create a wonderful story, kind of thing. And on the little thing that he posted, it was like God said it, kind of thing. But the bottom line is, you know, so many people, when things aren't just going their way, they just go all sorts of crazy. They just, oh, this is ridiculous. This is, why even bother, you know, and go into all of this. But you know what? That's not what leaders do. You know, leaders don't just sit there and quit, and they don't badmouth. They don't, you know, they don't point fingers and falsely accuse different things or try to come up with excuses. What they do is they allow the real magical story to come out of it. And that's been a big part of my journey, with the struggles, things I had to overcome, but also the things that happened that just still sort of blow me away a little bit. And that's it's kind of a key part of this whole concept.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you.
Amazing. You're welcome. I have nothing to say. This is just great. I just want to hear you.
And if you
Excuse
think
me,
about,
but you go
yeah,
ahead.
and I was going to say too, if you think about that from a standpoint, when you look at it from a leadership standpoint, because this will dovetail out of what we talked about the last 2 weeks. Remember, over the last 2 weeks, we talked a little bit about how so many people want to instill somebody's, emotions so that they can control them and things like that. And that's not, functional. Emotions can kind of happen, but it's not just because somebody controls them outside. It's they are inside of you and the story and things of that nature. But it's very interesting when you look at a leader, and I mean a true leader, not a narcissistic control freak, not somebody who's playing narcissistic games, but a true leader. When you talk about leading teams in a rapidly changing environment, like what I talk about, things that are not always predictable, what do you need to do to really develop that in your people, so that, guess what, at the point of attack, you don't have to come in and point fingers and just dictate to them. Magic things can happen because you so developed your team. And if you think about it, from my background in the military, guess what? In military situations, that can come into play too. It's not just because you tell them what to do at the attack. Are there some times where you kind of need to do that if somebody is, kind of, oh, what do we do now? Kind of thing. Yeah. But if that's what you're depending on, you're not being a leader. Your people should be able to make the magical things happen, even in the presence of the struggles that they're in. And there's a couple of things about how leaders need to truly do that. And I've seen some examples of this throughout my entire career, kind of thing, and my life story. But one of the things that I'll just sort of throw out, it's sort of a dovetail out of these last 2 weeks that we talked about. But what are you going to do to get your people so developed and so ready that when that situation comes on scene, you don't have to dictate to them, because they are going to make great decisions because of how you develop them. And, are you going to still sit there and look for factors that maybe they didn't see or you didn't see? Yeah. But the bottom line is they may already see the factors there. And that's that internal part that we were talking about, where somebody's confident inside, not that somebody external is confident because they're kind of forcing you to just capitulate, kind of thing. And that's the big thing on this. And I'll just share one really quick story.
Sure.
That's aligned with this aspect of true leadership. And like I say, this is something that I did, and it's been a part of kind of what I've done. But there was I was working this was, holy cow. This was about 18 years ago, I think, or something like that, kind of thing. And what I was doing is I was working with a couple of our Gulfstream 5 pilots. What I was doing is I was training them to come up to being EASA qualified back in the day. Or actually it's EASA now. It was JAA back in the day, for the European aviation authorities, so that they could train and do training for European pilots when they came in. And it was sort of interesting that when you look at this aspect of how you need to inspire this type of thinking, and there's a neuroscience aspect of this too, when you talk about how you're going to truly get the frontal lobe of their brains to process, so they can visualize, they can see things that they didn't see before, they can see some of the factors, they can make dramatic decisions that in the after effect you're going, yeah, that's my folks, yeah, they're doing good, kind of thing. And one of the things in the training we did is this, there was 3 of them. Okay. And one of the things in the training we did, I was going to have them do an emergency descent. For those that don't know about flying, the concept of emergency descent typically is when the cabin has lost all its oxygen and people have to put the masks on, and you do an emergency descent to get out of the thin air and get it down quickly enough so that they can breathe and survive and all of that kind of stuff. And it's emergency descent is a way of really getting the airplane down. In fact, it's interesting that one of the factors that goes into a certified aspect of certain airplanes and what the maximum altitude they're certified to go to is there's one of the things that determines that is that they have to, if they have to do an emergency descent, they have to be able to get from that altitude to 15,000 feet in 4 minutes, kind of thing.
Wow.
And because of how critical that is, well, what I did, most people will say, okay, you just lost all your pressurization or you lost all your oxygen or whatever kind of thing. This time I did a little bit different because I was going to make them think. What I did is I said, you just had a passenger that had a heart attack and they just collapsed in the back and they did an emergency descent. And I said, okay, and then I was just sort of acting as ATC while they made their decisions, emergency decisions, and coming in. And what they did is they cut the approach that they were flying down to the runway very short because they're trying to get the patient on the ground and get them to a hospital as fast as possible, which is not a bad thing to do. But they cut it very short and they came in and landed and brought it to a stop and stuff like this. Well, after this simulator session was done, when we were in the debrief and we were just kind of chatting a little bit, one of the things that I asked them, I said, well, let me just ask you. And I asked it in a way where they knew it wasn't anything right or wrong. But I said, let me ask you something. How much risk did you increase in doing that? And what I'm saying is kind of, there's other passengers in the airplane that are not hurting. I said, how much risk did you achieve? And I wasn't leading him to any answer at all. What I was doing is getting him to think and process for those 3 pilots. And what's interesting, they kind of explored and what I got them to do with just asking that question is they started looking at, okay, so what are the factors that would determine whether it's right to shut off that? What if we end up impacting the ground hard and kill somebody else when this guy was going to die anyway, or whatever, kind of thing. And just sort of giving some of that processing and thinking there. And I didn't tell them that there is a right answer on this. And I didn't say, you're going to give me the right answer. No, what I did is I simply got them processing the scenario and the concept, and understanding that. And they really appreciated it. Most of the people that I've worked with really appreciate. In fact, I'm actually working with a gentleman who's going to be a new ground school instructor.
Okay.
And he told me last week, he said, I'll tell you what, you bring insights that I never would have even thought of, kind of thing. And because it just has questions that get people sort of thinking like that and everything. But when you think about your team and you're wanting to prepare them, if all you're doing is sitting there and waiting until something happens so you can just tell them what to do, you're not being a leader. Because guess what? What if they have to make the decision and perform when you're not there?
Oh.
Because you were in a car crash and you're in the hospital for a little bit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, when you think about, getting your team to the point where they can make those amazing decisions and to see and to totally, prioritize and understand the factors that they didn't expect, kind of thing. They have to, that process is something that doesn't happen at the point of attack. It happens through the way that you instill conversations with your team through the journey, even before you get there. That's called proactivity. and it's called really developing your team so that when something happens and you're not there and they just make results that nobody in the company would have ever imagined. And the bosses come up and applaud you for your team, and you go, I'm glad they did that. Cool. Yep. Kind of thing. When it was them that really did it, and you're going to go applaud them for it. But it's, that process when you're talking about really developing that within your team to be able to get the processing going so that they can handle the situations that maybe nobody expected or whatever. That has to be done. And that's also a part of not just telling them what to do and making them feel good about what you're telling them what to do. Because guess what? You may have some factors that you didn't see on it, kind of thing. But it's that internal aspect of getting their processing going so they see clarity when it's needed and make the right decision to get to dramatic results. And it's just something to think about. It's just sort of a dovetail point out of what we were talking about. And like I say, that's just one aspect about that one example from the aviation stuff. When we talk about what we were talking about the last couple of weeks, where you're not just playing the narcissistic control freak games, but you're really developing your team. That comes through the way you instill questions and generate their mental processing, and also give them some awareness where you're building their brain to be able to see sometimes the factors that they didn't expect and whatever. And they can generate the right results, not just at the last point of attack because, oh, this is coming in, I just got to do this. No, it's about getting some insights on that as to are they ready? And keep in mind that when you're talking about leading your team, the process of doing that doesn't happen at the point of attack. It happens a long time before that, where you're truly building that aspect in your team as they go forward. And basically that's what I was doing with those 3 pilots. Doesn't mean that whatever the answer for making that choice and landing or going down here and going a little bit further out while the patient died or whatever kind of thing, the bottom line is neither one of those is right or wrong, but on what basis are you really making the successful decisions that get people out? You know what? When you're talking about your team in perhaps a rapidly changing environment, which, let's face it, so much of the world out there right now is that right now with the economies and a lot of that kind of stuff within your business. To what extent do you as the leader need to rethink how you're really building that in your team? Because if all you're doing is waiting until such a time where they need you to tell them something, you're not getting the job done. And as a leader, and there's so much you mentioned the movie and the book. In my autobiography, I mentioned a few examples of how I did that as a leader in the journey that I was in decades ago. And people responded. I was sort of humbled that people responded sort of amazingly. But that's a key aspect that dovetails out of the last 2 sessions we had. It's not about just telling them what to do. It's not about me controlling you. It's not about me trying to fire up your emotions so that you just kind of capitulate, shut off your brain and do what I tell you to. It's, are you building that potential as you go long before it's even needed? If you do that, you're actually being a leader. And guess what? That's what's needed so often when you're talking about leading your teams in a unpredictable, or as we used to say in the fighter community, unpredictable and VUCA environment, variable, uncertain, changing, and adaptive, kind of thing. Because guess what? The factors that they see coming on the scene right here may not be the exact situation that you talked about.
Yeah.
It may have 2 or 3 factors that they didn't expect. Can they process based on their awareness of that and make the right decisions that get you to amazing results? And that's when you talk about that sort of dovetails as out of what we talked about the last two episodes, and really it's how a leader must do that. And a lot of people don't fully understand that, but it is true. That's how you truly lead your team, and you prepare the team for dramatic, incredible results. So much so that the bosses come up and applaud you, and you just nod your head. You go, okay, well, thanks, appreciate it. They did great. Yeah, you bet. And you go over and applaud them. Yeah, kind of thing. But it's something to think about. That's that aspect of engendering the processing of their brain, and not just going with rote academic things, and doing that by asking some of those questions that just get them thinking about it and processing and all that. That is huge.
Got it. Well, we still have a few minutes left here on the show. Got to remind everyone how we can reach out to you. Would you mind sharing?
I'd be glad to. It's like I said, if it's Randy at coachingforrelevance.com, as you can see on the sign up here. That's my website. You can also, if you go to my web, and I'll just kind of share this with you. If you go to my website, there's a on the home page, basically, if you go right down to the bottom on the home page, it has my cell phone, it has my email. Somebody wants to reach out, just have a conversation, they're welcome to. As I mentioned before on shows, I don't do I don't necessarily just do sales calls. So, I mean, if you have a need and you need a coach, you know what? Yeah, we'll come up with something. But, just to have a conversation, we can do that. And so, yeah, it's just that's the best way to do it. You can go to my website, and just at the bottom of the homepage, you'll see the contact information there. And of course, when it does come up, I think I shared this with you before, but it comes up after you've been on the website homepage for about 3 seconds or so. It comes up with a banner for my autobiography. And if somebody was interested, you can go down and you can click on there's a little thing that says, I think, get your copy, and you click on that link, and it takes you right to Amazon where you can get it, so if somebody wants to. So no pressure, but just as a
Can we get an autograph copy? How does that work? Are you doing those yet?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's put it this way. I autographed 10 copies already. And one of the things that I will say is this: if somebody's coming through DFW or something, Dallas, Fort Worth or whatever, and they want to get a autographed copy and stuff, if they want to bring their copy, I'll be glad to endorse it, kind of thing. No problems at all. But it's but yeah, if somebody wants to do that, and they're going to purchase a copy of it, and if they're in the area and they just want me to come over and autograph it, I'll be glad to do that.
Awesome.
So awesome. Yeah, it's so the short answer to the question is yes, if we end up in the same place at some point. I'd be glad to. But yeah, it's well worth it, and just everything we can to bring freedom to potential. That's what we want. So yeah, it's kind of amazing. But yeah, like you said, some interesting things with the autobiography right now. Like I said, here in August 14th, that second Wednesday in August, we're going to have a 30-minute Zoom meeting. Anybody is welcome to come in and join. If they've already read the book, they can come in. If they haven't read it yet but think they want to, they can come in. And we'll have some conversations about the concept and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't cost anything if they're on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. Either way, one of the things that people will find is that you'll start seeing some ads going forward about the book launch. A video on that, and so you'll start seeing those probably in the next couple of weeks. You'll start seeing some things. Like I said, doesn't cost any money, but it'll be if they want to join in at the time for that, and on the link they can come in and join in for the time. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. I'll let them kind of engender a couple of questions, or if they have a comment or two they want to kind of throw out or just some appreciation, that's fine too. So yeah, it's just to kind of give a little bit of the knowledge of it out there.
Beautiful. Randy, how can we reach you and buy the book?
Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, the easy way is if you go to my website right here, and like I said, about 3 seconds, you'll get on the home page where it has the picture over the pilot's shoulder where he's flying the jet kind of thing. And once you get on the home page, after about I think it's about 3 seconds or so, you'll see a banner that comes up, and it's on the and it's about my autobiography. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the banner, it's only about, right at the bottom of it. It's not very long at all. There's a little thing that I think says get your copy, and you click on that link and it takes you right to Amazon where you can buy it. And if you want a hard copy, which most people do, make sure you purchase it from Amazon. Yep. You can purchase it from Kindle, but Kindle is not a hard copy. It's a digital download. So if they want a hard copy, which most people do, make sure you do it in Amazon.
Well, thank you again for being here. Always a pleasure. Congratulations, and wishing you even more success, more luck. Not that you need it, but wishing you a fantastic day. You do so many wonderful things for people with your coaching, with just who you are. And so I love seeing the success and everything twofold coming back to you like this. So thank you, and best of luck, Randy. We'll talk again next week. Bye-bye.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll look forward to it.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.